When you partner with Axon, you immediately gain access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. We carry all major brands and sizes of tires and wheels. We specialize in large diameter wheels for large equipment. We have one of the largest OEM replacement wheel inventories in North America. Known for extreme flotation setups, duals, and triples, we have wheels for all makes and models of tractors, sprayers, combines, and grain carts. If we don't have the wheel in stock, we'll custom build, sandblast, and paint in-house. There isn't a more vast inventory in North America dedicated to helping dealers move more iron. With facilities on the West Coast and in the heart of the Midwest, leverage our 230,000 square feet of indoor inventory to solve any problem a grower may have. Move more iron with Axon.
Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. I got a return guest here, Zach Hiner. Has been on the show quite a bit, but he's started out a new little venture called Merit Auctions. So Zach, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Casey. Thanks for having me on today.
I appreciate you coming on. Before we get too heavy into what's happening in the marketplace, let's talk a little bit about Merit Auctions and what it is you got going on over there.
Yeah, so myself, John Probasco, Jim Huff, and a few other people there at, I guess basically in January, we're maybe 6 months into this thing, but started a new auction company. Of course, all of us, have been in the auction business for 20 plus years, apiece at least, and then we just had some changes where we were at, and then saw the opportunity to do this, so we started up there basically January 1 and kind of hit the ground here, moving real fast, and kind of shocked all of us that we're kind of where we're at right now, but I think it just shows a need for the market and doing things. So we got, we've had several land sales, a couple farm retirement sales already there, but we've got a big sale coming up for Ziegler Cat this coming Monday, and then of course the one we're going to talk about here is the Ag Pro John Deere, which I've had sales for Ag Pro. I think probably this may be going on the 5th year. They're nothing new to the auction market, but they got a big sale coming up here August 31st.
Yeah. So let's jump right into that. So when you're looking at, I'd talked about quite a bit that I thought that we would see this kind of an easy landing, and we'd kind of see all these things happen because, as supply chains got better, we would see this gradual increase of machines hitting the market. So you get the new stuff coming in, the used coming in, and those kind of things. Well, the supply chain thing did clean up, and that's there. But I think the biggest issue that we saw with supply chains across the entire ag equipment spectrum was that not only did they clean up, but it just all of a sudden got better, right? It didn't just 1 month over a month we saw 4 or 5 new machines show up more than the previous months. We got this little supply of used now and kind of grown into it. It's like everything that was ordered in 22 showed up in the end of the fourth quarter in 22, going into 23, and what we see this first quarter of 23, the amount of new stuff getting delivered, and that's just really saturated the market all at once. And it's funny, we talk about the combine problem, this, that, and the other thing, and it's always the butt of everyone's joke, but I'm a firm believer if you've got one combine, you probably have a combine problem somewhere coming down your line. So it's as you're looking at what's going on, a lot of these auctions that we're seeing are very combine heavy. I guess, Zach, as you're looking around and looking at the marketplace, what are your thoughts there, and what are your thoughts as you look at what's going on with combines right now?
We were talking a little bit there starting off, Casey, about some trends and looking back, and of course let's go back a year ago, 8 months ago. I think all of us behind the scenes were talking, was this going to be the 12, 13
right
again, rolling into 14, and I kind of relayed it back. I told you, I said, I don't have time to study all those numbers and look at all the graphs and everything in between there. I think there might be a little similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. I don't think the numbers are near as many, but yeah, there's a lot of these combines coming up. A lot of these machines that I've looked at here in the last month, month to 2 months that are going to be in this sale, a lot of these machines just came in on trade. I mean, they weren't aged inventory. You know, they got the new ones delivered. They came to the lot and they came right out of the shed. So you know, it's not the age thing that we saw there in the past. You know, 200 days or whatever. But there's definitely a lot of combines out there. But you know, I think if anybody can learn from the past of this, if you know, everybody's farmers around here and farmers that know that I'm in this business always call me and say, you know, what do you think? But I think if they can learn one thing, you know, the opportunity that's going to be here, where these things are going to fall and where they're going to land. You know, there's been a lot of them sold here up to this point where we're at in the last 45 days. So I think a new base has kind of been established on them. But I think the market needs to understand the opportunity that's here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I've watched a lot of auctions, and went back and looked at the results and kind of where they're at, and it is not uncommon to see 15 to 25 combines in one cell at one swath. Where I don't want to say that's uncommon, but that is not what I expected to see going into this fall. I expected to see more of a gradual kind of pick up, and then, you know, maybe towards the end of the year you see something going into that first quarter, maybe you see some more stuff happen. But there's a lot of folks that just jumped on the train and say, hey, you know what, we're gonna clean up what we've got and take, you know, 25% of our inventory, our combine inventory, whatever it is, and do something with it other than watch it sit on our lot. And I think that is I almost feel like that is one of those deals where that's kind of a lesson of the past that people learn as they're looking at that 12 and 14 time frame, where a lot of those machines, like you said, that got sold, there might be 20 of them in an auction or something like that, but they'd been on the lot for a year plus before they took them to auction. And I think what you're saying there is pretty accurate, that not all this stuff is a year old or 2 years old or 3 years old or anything like that. It might be 6 months, 9 months old, and they're taking it and running with it. So
there's several machines here that on our first round, you know, we the bulk of those combines in that heart of Ohio, and you know, some of your folks listening here, if you're out there in western Nebraska where you are, or whatever, you know, a lot of people talk about the I states, but Ohio doesn't quite get the credit for where they're at right there in that London, Washington courthouse. You know, where right there in that pocket, I mean, that's the best of Ohio, and I mean, that's flat ground. You would think you were in the Illinois or Iowa, but you know, a lot of those combines, there was a handful of them on the first round that, you know, they were on my list, and they were still at the farm. They were still at the farm sitting in the barn, and I had to catch them on the second round. So I mean, yeah, a lot of these things never even hit the lot, and I say a lot of them. There's, you know, a lot of them never hit the lot, but they're definitely not aged inventory like we had in the past. And you know, the other thing, Casey, you know, you're kind of seeing as the market's changed and we went to these online sales. I mean, hey, you know the past and the history, just what I've done with, you know, with you guys at your dealership a long time ago, and just bounced around different dealerships, the live sale to the online. We're still offering a live sale if somebody wants to have one. You know, there's different settings, I think, for everything. But even on the online thing, when you take this many combines and somebody can drive down to Washington Courthouse, Ohio, and if they're looking to upgrade into a 780 or a 790, that you have multiple machines sitting right there together. Same thing if you go over to London or up to Richwood. You know, within a 3-hour drive there, you can see a majority of these machines right there in the heart of Ohio. And I think for the auction market, that does bring a big plus to it. When guys still want to go look at them, put their hands on them. I mean, a few of these machines only have, you know, 200, 300 hours on them, but you know, a lot of the guys still do want to go look, and you're not driving 10, 12 hours and look at one machine here on an online sale, and then you got to drive 6 hours the other way to look at another one.
Right.
And they can look at a lot of machines here in just a road trip.
Yeah, and I think that's the. I'm a big fan of the online live auction combo thing. I think that gets the best of the both worlds, because you've got the, you know, just the, you know, the auctioneer doing his thing in the background, and you're being competitive and going on what's happening. And I think the lead up to the auction, when people are kind of pecking at what the machine is sitting out there, and they're kind of putting their prices up there, it's somewhat kind of gets because I get caught up in it myself, where, you know, it's 2 days to go before the auction closes, and man, this machine should be at X, but it's at Y. Man, this is going to go cheap. I better jump in on this deal. When you have the auctioneer and get the ring guys out there, flaming the fans out there on the flames and getting everything going, making things hot. I just think that's I don't think you can have a better opportunity to sell your piece of equipment than in that environment. And I know you feel the same way about that. But it's one of those deals where having the live bids coming in on the internet, and you got the stuff going on out there at the time, it's a faster pace, but I think you get more money out of the stuff at the end of the day.
You know, and I think there's, like I said, everything has a setting or a place for it. When you take a dealership like Ag Pro, you know, or you know, a lot of these John Deere dealers, you start moving these big, huge machines like that, you get the cost of that in there. You know, does it weigh out moving them, have a live sale or the online? But I think one of the big difference, and I guess this is probably where us at Merit Auctions is going to really try to you know stand out in this online setting when we're having an online only dealer sale like this, opposed to our live sales that we're going to have and continue to have. But you're dealing with basically just a handful of us, and I say that's me, John, and Joey or Casey have basically seen every one of these machines. Nobody else takes our pictures. There's not you know, and there's always you know. You get into this new stuff and this equipment. Hey, none of us are absolute experts on it, but I've looked at enough combines and looked at enough machinery. You know what to picture. If there's an issue with it, you know to go talk to the service manager and say, hey, you know, you need to get this thing fixed before we sell it or whatever. Where you know, and I'm not throwing rocks or stones at anybody, but you know, some of the online auctions, they just send a guy out there to picture it. He don't know whether he's picturing a combine or a cotton picker. It's just on his list to do. You know,
right?
So, I encourage everybody to call the store managers and call the you know, get the history on these machines. But in return, I do get a lot of calls on them because people know that we've been doing this a long time, and I can say yes, I personally saw that machine, and here's what I thought of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
a lot of miles on in the last month and a half working on this sale.
Yeah, no, I think that's the other side of it too, is understanding what that history of that machine looks like, and who. What was done with it and those kind of things too, because it's one of those deals where you can go out there and take a look at a machine on the internet and see the video and all that stuff like that, but physically seeing it with your own eyes or talking to that person that's physically seeing it with their own eyes makes a huge difference in what it is that you're going to ultimately end up purchasing. And some of the stuff where you're making a $500,000 decision on, and I think that requires a little more due diligence than some of this other stuff that we're looking at. So, all right, so we've got the overall market right now. We're seeing a lot of things move. I've been watching row crop tractors a little bit, and I kind of want your opinion on this. I think that, you know, we hear that every time that this comes down, I'd rather have 20 row crop tractors to every one combine I had, and I totally agree. I would too. But as you're looking at the marketplace, what's your thoughts right now on those 300 plus horsepower row crop tractors out there? I mean, are you getting some people interested in maybe listening to some stuff like that? Are you starting to see that pick up a little bit more than in the past?
Well, I think, Casey, what you just said, I probably couldn't agree with it anymore, because if you look at this list that we got coming up on the 31st, there's not one of those tractors in it. I mean, we have a lot of the 6Rs and the smaller tractors, but there's not. I think on the initial list, I think there maybe was a 8295R or there was one on the list, on the initial list, and it got sold there before we got started on it. So I'm not seeing a lot of those or that being a problem. So as far as, I think what you said just pretty much sums it up. But we'll see. I know I've talked with several other dealers here, that are considering, doing something here at the end of the year like they always do. And I guess we'll see if those start popping up at the end of the year. But right now, I'm definitely not seeing them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, to me, I think I'm paying attention to those, because that number of what's out on the marketplace is just growing exponentially over a month when you start looking at available inventory. And again, it kind of goes back to the same thing I talked about earlier, is that we thought we were going to have this steady supply of used equipment that we could kind of wash through, and all of a sudden everything just comes and shows up at one time, and now you've kind of got your market's completely saturated. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out. When you're looking at the stuff now, and you've been in the auction game for a long time, and the majority of the time that you've been in the auction game, you haven't seen 7 and 8% interest rates out there as stuff goes. It almost makes it feel like the old buyer's premium, 10% buyer's premium thing times two, when you start looking at some of these interest rates. But I guess as you're looking around and talking to some folks, what are some of the conversations you're having around the equipment that you're selling and interest rates?
It actually hasn't been asked as much as what I think if me or you would suspect it would be, but I think it's probably come the end of the year here. We talked early on before we started recording here of how many of these guys locked in those $14, $15 beans,
right,
especially there a couple weeks ago. But I still think there's a lot of cash out there this year. There's a couple farms here that sold just around where I am in Indiana there just in the last week or so, and it hasn't slowed the land thing down.
Yeah.
And everybody said it would slow the land thing down 6 months ago when they started really hiking up there. But I think at the end of the year, when we see where the cash flow is at the end of the year, I think that interest thing will probably really show up into 2024. But like I said, I'm not an economist, and I try to stay away from that a little bit too much.
I hear you. Yeah.
Basically, what I do at the end of the day, we always end up being wrong.
That's right. I know the feeling. Yeah, they have. You're right. I think there's plenty of capital out there right now that guys are playing with because, like you said, if they took an advantage of any of these commodity prices starting all the way back into 22, rolling into where we're at now, there was some really good marketing opportunities to lock in some pretty good profit on the farm. So I think there's, to your point, I think there's plenty of assets out there, or capital asset opportunities for some of these guys when it comes to tax season. When you're looking at the planter marketplace, as you look at that, what's your feeling on that? Because I've been thinking about this from an auction perspective for a while, that some of these planters that you can do the upgrade stuff with and those kind of things, there's an opportunity to take some of these older planters and do some really unique things with them that make them, quote unquote new again. I guess as you're traveling around and talking to folks and you're seeing stuff, buyers and stuff like that, as if any of them talk to you about that, like, hey, if you got a good planter that pops up, keep me in mind type of thing. Is that you seen
I've
that?
got two farmers that I know very well that they went out and bought late model brand new planters there, and then they had their trouble and their glitches with them, like
Sure.
just like a lot of the new stuff has, and
Yep.
but both of them told me that's what they wish they would have done, was rebuild their old planters. So I think you're gonna rebuild or put them, whether they strip them all down and put all the options on them or do whatever. But I think guys are really looking at that just like they did back in that 13, 14 market when them 24 row planters got so cheap, and
Sure.
stripping them down, doing what they wanted. But back to what we hit on there just a little bit ago when you was talking about the interest rate, Casey, and it's just how much more we can find out in just another 10 days or 2 weeks, but on the Ag Pro sale here, they're offering 5.9 through JDF. Well,
Okay.
as we get closer to the sale, then we kind of see how many people are, inquiring and asking about that or whatever. A lot of people, it just, including myself, so procrastinator, and they wait until a day or two before the sale, and they're calling and asking those questions and filling out that paperwork. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just in another 2 weeks, we'll have a better answer on that, what those interest rates and what guys are thinking on that.
Yep. And I think that's the big draw now. You get 5.9% interest. It's amazing that what you can come up with. All right, let's talk about the Ag Pro auction here. Let's kind of run through what some of this looks like here. So there's 34 combines that's going to be on this?
I think there's 32 now. Casey.
32, okay.
The early list had 34, and then
Yep.
just like any dealer like that, when they put that list out to their salesmen, a couple of them. But I believe there's 32 that I was working on finalizing that here before we got on there, double checking with what we proxied and put on the
Yep.
catalog and what our list was. But I think there's going to be 32 machines. I mean, 2022s, I think the oldest machine in there goes back. There was a 9750 in there. Just that when you get down to just the more common machines, but the bulk of those machines are those 18 and newer machines.
Yep. So I'm looking at the sale bill now. They're pretty good cross section. So you're looking at, like you talked about, there's 2022 790s, 780s, 770s, 21 models, 780s, 770s, all the way down through. There's a good selection of combines, working your way through all that. And like you said, you get down to, I think there's a 60 Syriac, there's a 9660 down here at the bottom, a bunch of S600 series, those kind of things. So if you're looking for a good combine, I mean, this is a pretty good list of machines from a cross section of buyers out there. So I guess talk a little bit about those combines and what you see there and what some of the special attributes of them are.
Well, I think the other thing, we didn't really talk about this, but it's probably a good place to work it in. When you start talking what the John Deere shop rates are, and
Sure.
You got these guys that, and especially here around me, and I suppose you get over into Illinois, and some of them guys, those 1,000, 1,500 acre farmers that are still in love with their 9670 or their 770 or whatever, and they're dumping 20 grand a year in it because it's got 36, 37, 4,000 engine hours, and they're still good machines.
Yep.
I mean, I think this is where those guys are going to have to look at updating the machine.
Sure.
They might not need to go into that 19 or 20 model, but they can go into that 18 model,
Yep.
680 or 670, or jump up there. That just because the maintenance is just. And my dad's in that scenario. He'll take his combine down to John Deere every single year,
Yep.
and just keep putting money in it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the one thing about sales like this is that it does give that opportunity for a guy to take that 9770. Because you think about it, 9770 right now, that's almost a 10-year-old machine. Because you look at 2008 being the first year for the 70 series, and 2011 was the last year for it. So you're getting close to where you've got, you're rolling up on that. Almost a 20-year-old machine. I mean, if you really start looking at it, I mean, you're 15 years into that. You start looking at these machines and what they're doing. The amount of efficiencies that come from some of the technology in some of these too really help kind of grow that cost justification when you start looking at some of this stuff too. And you never know what each auction is a little bit different. You never know what you're going to get, but it might be a good opportunity for you bang for your buck on some of the stuff here when you're looking at what's out there. So that's a pretty impressive list of combines.
And the other thing, Casey, and we talked about this a little, the amount of them that have hit the market here in just the last 45 to 60 days, is that going to shorten up the December sales? In the past, December was always heavy on them. I sure would think it would. You would know on the Deere side or the dealer side of it, what the inventory numbers are, probably better than me. But one thing I don't think we are going to see is the farmer retirements like we've seen in the last 2 years of being able to buy a retirement combine at auction. I mean, anybody that was thinking about getting out, I had the busiest year that I'd ever had there, finishing off 2022 was just guys that could have farmed 2-3 more years, but it was just all the writing on the wall with the price of the machinery, and it was just time to get out. And we got several nice farm retirement sales booked coming into fall. We got a couple of them on the website already. There'll be a few more coming up, but you're not going to see the retirement sales and the opportunity to buy these same combines. 1 and 2 year old, 3-year-old machines, low hour, but sitting in the farmer's shed and off the farm. I think we're just not going to get that opportunity like we have in the last 2 years.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I love about auctions too, because I think you get a really good quality machine for the price is the construction equipment side of it. You got a good list of stuff down here when you're looking at some skid steers, some dozers. You got some really nice wheel loaders that are up here. Talk about that a little bit. What you see on that side of the market.
Yeah, and I haven't in the past. I haven't done a lot in that market. I followed it a little bit, but I think as these farms get bigger, and I know you've talked about this on many of your podcasts. I mean, when it comes to pushing the pencil and things that they can save money on, a farmer having a dozer or an excavator 15, 20 years ago was a big thing. But a lot of these guys that they're putting those in their balance sheets or in their sheds or whatever, and they're doing that. So it's a good opportunity there for some of these farmers too. You go out and price a new dozer or a new excavator. They might only put a couple $100 a year on it, but I've always personally, I think and I don't have the stats to back it up, but the sales that I've watched, if you take a comparable machine and you just put it in a pure construction sale, or you put it in an ag sale. I think it always brings a premium in the ag sale because it's putting the farmer's eyes on it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity here for Ag Pro and the dealership to get rid of some of that. They have a lot of the construction equipment. They have those stores that specialize in that, and I think it's just going to be. I think that's going to be a good opportunity for them. And they've had some of it in the past, but they're putting a little more in this one than they have in the past. When you get into the bigger wheel loaders and the excavators and stuff.
Yeah, you start looking at some of these dozers and stuff that they start seeing pop up on guys' farms where they might be clearing out some land or whatever else, or working a waterway or something like that. You're starting to see a lot of those, like you said, where they can pencil that out and say, I can get this dozer and have my hired man or whoever run it, and we can level this out, and I don't need to pay, ABC Construction Company, their dirt contractor, something like that, to come in and do these various dirt projects they have. And so you're starting to see a lot of this stuff pop up, even some pull pans and back behind their 4-wheel drive and stuff like that, where they're seeing those pop up to where they can do some of that dirt work themselves. So I think that's a pretty neat deal.
Well,
All right.
the same thing. We're kind of getting off topic here, but you get into the tiling market. I mean, look how many of their own farmers got their own ditching machine, own tiling.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Especially in areas like where we don't have that problem out here, but some of those places they have that ditch, that water situation is a big deal when you start looking at it roll off.
People out there in western Nebraska that fills me in on the weather. I hear you've been getting a little rain this year, Casey.
Well, the thing about out here is that it can rain all summer, and we get 2 weeks of heat, and it's right back to where we started. So there's no, and I think we're getting ready to head back into that period here pretty quick. So it'll be this last part of August will be interesting to see what happens there. All right. Lastly, let's talk a little bit about these the heads out there for those combines. So you got a good quality selection of corn heads and platform heads. You got some flex drapers. You got you've got some pretty nice new ones. RD45s and those kind of things, where you've got the new technology with some of the older stuff out there. Some of the 35, 45 foot stuff. So you got a good selection of sizes, and you're looking at your corn heads down here, where you've got mostly 12-row corn heads. You got a few 8 rows in there, but I guess talk a little bit about that. What do you see there?
Same thing there. I will say overall, for all the dealer sales that I've done in the past, and looking at these heads, I would say this is probably the best quality of heads that that I've probably ever had in an auction. But if you look at the age of them and the time on them, probably explains that. But there was a couple of these heads, same thing. When on the very first round, when I looked at them, they just came out of the wheat field and had to get cleaned up yet.
Yeah.
And just got traded in. I just don't think that there's probably going to be the opportunity to buy these kind of heads at an auction, or there hasn't been in the past, and I don't think you're probably going to see that moving ahead. So, a lot of these heads will pair right up to these combines, and I sure think you're going to have some of those guys looking to update machines, and if they're going to update from that machine that we were talking about, they're going to be looking at these heads that package them right together. Now, again, we get done, maybe we'll have a follow-up, Casey, and we'll look at how many of these same buyers that bought a combine went ahead and updated a head at the same time, because it sure looks like a fit to me.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity there where you can get the combine, the head, and the corn head and the platform head all together on the same machine. So that will be
we're kind of
interesting.
we're focusing here on this sale because of the size of it. But you go back here this coming Monday, we have that sale coming up for Ziegler Cat. Of course, I think there's two S680s, older machines in that, few corn heads in that. But we're gonna kind of see they have several of the the yellow combines in there, and then they have a good selection of heads in that sale too. So we're going to kind of see both sides of it. But it's a smaller sale than this. They've normally had a December sale, and they decided to have an August sale here. So I guess we'll kind of get a different side of that market and see what that is.
So I know Ben Freoff up there. He's a good guy, and you're talking about there. But let's spend a little time on that one too, because you start looking at some of these track machines, and there's more and more folks that are interested in looking at these track units and what they see there. So you've got a couple of these MTs out there, the bigger ones. You got your MTs. What do you got out here? You got some. Get down there, corn heads. Where you at? Tractors.
you can't put me on the spot too much here. This sale was Probasco's, and then I went to a few of these stores. I started up way up north up there and bounced down, so I've seen a few of these. But John and Joey and Casey did a majority of this sale.
Yep.
But yeah, they kind of got a little bit of a variety there.
Yeah, they got a good cross section. If you're looking at here, and you got the big four, you got the MT 965Es, you got the 4-wheel drives, you got the MT 865Es, you've got some smaller horsepower tractors, loader type tractors. You've got a couple sprayers in the mix, a 4066R. You've got my favorite Caterpillar tractors, CH65C. You got that one in there. So there's a good mix of tractors right there.
You got that Caterpillar blood in you.
Got a little Caterpillar blood in me, yeah. But they've got, this is, if you're looking at what's out there, I mean, that's a great cross section of tractors if you're in a market for something like that.
And I tell you, this is the first that myself personally had ever been involved with the Ziegler's sales or dealerships, But like I said, I started up way at their farthest north store up there. I think it was Ada, Minnesota, I think is where I started up there, and I kind of worked down just a little ways, and John and Joey come up north with Casey, but I was surprised, as far as the organization of that and the dealership when you went in on the lots. I mean, I think they definitely run a class act at that organization, and there was I think overall when you stop in at their dealerships, or if you go in there and talk to them guys, you're gonna get the story on these machines, and they're gonna know where they came from, and they're not like some of them. It's auction. Sorry, I don't know much about it.
Right. And you're right. I mean, you start looking at the combine selection that they've got here. I mean, you've got some 770s, a 680. You got some Gleaners. You got some Lexion. Obviously, Lexion combines. That's what they sell up there. But you got some. They got a good cross section of equipment there as well that ranging in year and hours. So there's a good opportunity to get into some machines there if that's what you're looking for. So they got some good stuff here. Same with heads. I mean, there's a good selection of heads up there as well. You start looking at that. Oh, forge harvesters. Well, there you go. What fun would it be without trying to auction off a forge harvester? So that's the oddest market out there, I think, of anything that's out there. It's just always constant. The forge harvester market. It's either really, really bad or just bad. You know what I mean? So it seems like as you take a look at what's going on in the forge harvester marketplace, especially now with what you see with Class 3 milk and how that really drives what you see happening in the marketplace. But there's I can't tell you that I think that there's like no surprises when you start dealing with forge harvesters as far as values go. I think if anyone tells you that they're surprised by the value of a forge harvester, you kind of have to question what they're looking at, because they're the same.
I've had several custom harvester sales clear back to 2015 when we did South Forks, and then I couldn't tell you how many in between there. And I go to the Harvesters Convention every year, and we've been involved in that great organization. And of course, you got the custom choppers there. But I personally have not had a forage harvester sale yet, and I'm sure that day will be coming. But that'll be when you sell one here or there. But I'm sure there's been those sales, but I don't know that I've ever watched or saw a sale where they had a row of 10 or 12 or multiple of them. Right down the road.
Yeah, that day. I think that's another thing too with the custom cutter thing, is that so many of those guys are starting to kind of get out of the business of what they're doing and selling off their book of business to a younger custom guy or whatever it is, because they don't have anybody come back in or whatever it is that their situation is. But I'm like you. I'm waiting for that day when I pull up in a sell bill and it's all choppers, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to watch when that happens.
I'll be calling you for advice when I get that call, Casey.
Yeah, you're probably calling the wrong guy if you're calling me. So that'll be a rough day. Well, it'll just be interesting to watch it happen. You know what I mean? And just because what you think might happen may be the complete opposite. Because it's choppers, you never know what you never know what's gonna happen. So it's definitely a different deal. So. All right, that's probably a good place to stop. So talk a little bit about Merit Auction, how they can find you, get a hold of you guys, kind of what your philosophy is with the auction stuff, and where you're headed.
Yeah, so meritauctions.com is our website there. We got the info on there. But like I said, it's everybody. If you look at the team, I think you're going to see a lot of familiar faces. You know, we've all been in the auction business. We all know what it takes to have a successful auction. You know, there's things we can't control. You can't control the market, but when you do all you can do to top that market, I think that's what the customer and the people appreciate. And you know, I've had so much repeat business or referral business, and I think, you know, that's because of that. But we're gonna do things the way that we've always done things. When you look at our team, and we're gonna strive to do the best we can. I'm excited about the future. There's going to be some big news here coming up shortly that we'll break with you with you know our plans moving ahead. But like I said, the biggest thing is we will have a live sale, and if somebody wants a live sale, I'm not going to tell a farmer that worked his whole life if he wants a live sale that I'm not going to do one for him, because at the end of the day, if you couple the internet with it, you know, it's just getting him the best price. If he's comfortable with people being there and having that, so. We bought 2 brand new auction toppers, and we're equipped to do that. But if you look at our website now, most of them are online only sales. But you know, we give our sellers the options, the pros, the cons, and let them decide or coach them in what we've seen. You know, so. But I'm excited about our future here, and like I said, John Probasco, and you know, he's had a lot of these dealer sales and worked with dealers, and Jim Huff on the real estate side, and Joey's been in the auction business forever, and we got Casey that came over from another auction company, and we got graphic designers that's what they've done. So I think I'm thinking and I'm hoping you're going to be seeing more of us, Casey.
Well, I hope so, Zach. I like having you guys around, and enjoy working with you guys in the past. So I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. So, Zach, appreciate you being the podcast, man.
Yep, and we'll see you down in Nashville here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a good time. So, all right, man. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. Go to LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast, and go to the YouTube channel, which is the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel. Go to everything Moving Iron related at MovingIronLLC.com. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Zach Hiner. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century.